Good morning, everyone. It is Friday, March 4th, the one day of the year where it's a command, March 4th. Uh, little dad jokes. Uh, this is Morning Market Movers, where we do live analysis for day trading, and we take a look at hotspots in the markets for today. I'm Todd Rich with Nadex. With me, as usual, Brian Caprice from Keep Trading Simple. We do have some things to talk about today, particularly the headline news. We know the war in the Ukraine. Everyone saw what was going on with the nuclear reactor. We've got a little bit of commentary on that, but it certainly is moving the FX markets. Interestingly enough, yes, we had the equities market sell off, but we've got to take a look at the euro. Euro's getting absolutely hammered across the board. You start having people afraid, concerned of some type of nuclear situation, whatever you want to call it, in Europe. Yeah, the euro is getting smoked. We also had non-farm payrolls and the unemployment rate numbers come out this morning. We are adding a ton of jobs. The number coming in higher, a couple 100,000 higher than what was expected. So the economy is firing up. And yeah, Brian and I were scratching our head where we're hearing comments about a quote tight labor market, but we're hiring people at a very, very, very high clip. So before we jump into some of the details and start looking at charts, I do need to share with you that trading involves risk. It may not be appropriate for everyone, that any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility at your own risk. And this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your education purposes. I mentioned the euro is getting clipped, and I mean here's the euro against the US dollar. I mean it is down below 1.10, flirting with 1.09, and yeah, it's getting hit across the board. I mean, if we take a look at, and here's the euro yen. I mean, look at this chart. Uh, it just they say things go up on the escalator and down on the elevator. Well, there's the elevator right down. So,
Bungee
Brian, let me
cord.
flip it
It's
over
more
to
of
you.
a
Let's
bungee
talk
cord.
about some of these headline news about what's going on in Europe.
Yeah,
We'll certainly jump into these some of these FX charts, and then
sure.
we'll take a look at some equities. Um, I'm not sure oil is moving around as much as as it has been, although I'm sure we'll take a peek at it. But I don't think we're seeing
hmm
the wild volatility swings in oil at the moment
No,
that
oil
we've
definitely
seen.
not so much right now. So yeah, the last I'd say 24 hours have been kind of crazy. I mean, we knew, the goal yesterday we mentioned and joked about it that that the mission was all of Ukraine, which was kind of under the assumption that that was the goal, the entire piece of it. We knew that the major cities, they took their first port. They were surrounding a lot of major cities. They were kind of holding back, and they weren't sure if it was refueling or what they were doing. Last night, Russia took over the largest power plant in Europe, in all of Europe. Um, there was issues. There was things actually posted this morning, or I guess last night, that everything has been secured. There was a fire, but it was actually outside the perimeter, so it wasn't actually inside. And there has been no change in in radiation at the plant, so nothing has really leaked. But again, a lot of this kind of battle and fight, and when we talk about sanctions, energy has been at the center of it the entire time. Obviously, that's not why they're fighting. That was more for security of different nations of things. But energy has been a hot button. Yesterday, during Powell's testimony, multiple different speakers blasted them about how can we put sanctions on everything else out there, but we're not touching their oil, their cash cow. The things that I mentioned yesterday, a lot of senators blasted Powell with it. And Powell's like, listen, I'm in monetary policy. I'm literally a guy that looks at numbers. I don't do anything with sanctions, so I can't really speak about those type of sanctions. But we know that, we do know that there's energy inflation, and inflation is something that we're tackling. Again, he used the excuse yesterday that the labor, they get stuck on an excuse, and it just, I mean, before it was transitory. That was obviously fake. We had talked about it for a year that it was fake, and they were stuck. And now they're talking labor. Well, here's the data for labor, okay? They said that wage earnings, in Powell's statement on Wednesday, he mentioned that labor, our earnings have been great. The labor market, what people are making now is great. They're not making anything more than they made the month before. It was actually expected to be a little bit lower, and they actually lowered the preview. It's a negative number. So they were making less last time, and they're making even less than what it was this time. So you would think if they adjusted it down last time, that the forecast would definitely be true, probably a little bit high, right? Nope, came in flat completely. So people are not making the money, but yet we're seeing inflation go higher and broadening. So again, Bullard seems to know what the heck he's talking about, right? He must
And
be,
we've got
he's got his secret decoder ring taken out or something, because he is sharing all the real data and everybody else is like, no, no, no. Like they're just puppets.
everyone else is
And look at the
hedging.
non-farm number. By 270,000
Blew it
difference
out.
in jobs. That's that's a huge amount. Look, labor market is very solid position. Look at that. Evans just said it. Didn't Evans like 2 days ago say, labor is a concern for us? And then you quote Ukraine. So Ukraine is now becoming the excuse, but the situation is getting worse and worse here. And the unemployment rate coming down, even the uneducated people are going to look at this and be like, yeah, yeah. So
our economy, it's the economy is running hot. It's not like we're
it's not just a little bit hot. It's 40-year hot. And the reaction is, well, you never know what could happen. Let's just go 0.25.
It's hard to say it's worse when like it's terrible. Our unemployment rate's dropping. It's good that we've got people working.
Yeah, and we got quantitative easing, and maybe we'll raise it just a little bit, maybe, but we're at 40-year highs. Let's go see if we can go for all-time high. It's unbelievable. This is what they're saying. And again, Bullard is sitting over there, and eventually they're going to do a retrospective analysis of all this and be like, man, this dude was right. He nailed this on the head. He said it every single time along the way. He said exactly what it was going to be, and he's, it's just, it's that.
Our economy's running. We're
when he's in charge.
Other people are struggling.
He's going to be in charge.
Not here. Not here.
So
the U.S. is cranking.
Currency market, and again, back to the whole the nuclear situation in Europe. Because of it, we've had absolutely massive amounts of movement in the currency market. Now, normally non-farm is a huge deal, and this is gigantic numbers. But the reality is, a lot of the steam has already been pushed through. This will affect the indices today, but remember, can't do anything because of Ukraine, so a lot of the market is going to focus on that. And going into the weekend, knowing what's happening right now, they lost this big power plant. Is this going to be a big deal? It could be a very big risk-off situation. But right now, the euro dollar is down 180 pips. The pound dollar, 150. The pound yen down 211. Dollar CAD up 146. Oil's kind of leveled out a little bit. And again, we're seeing some dollar strength. But you're seeing Aussie dollar is 16, not really a whole lot there. Euro pound only 42, so they're both kind of weak right now. So again, that's what's stimulating those. Dollar yen down 31. It's only yen strength. And then again, dollar Swiss is only about 3. We're not seeing a big difference in there. It is rallying up right now. It kind of went down and then kind of came back up again as we saw kind of nuclear. Okay, not a problem, and push back up again. So not bad. Yes, we do have a lot of dollar strength. The Dixie is moving. The reason why, and again, the Dixie, guys, is the dollar index for those of you that don't know. You may look at this and be like, oh my God, this is why the euro is low. No, the euro is low because of the nuclear situation on their door front. Yeah. This is high. I mean, 98.90 is very, very high on the dollar index, and that's really been pushed up since 5 o'clock this morning. Again, could it have anything to do with the non-farm numbers? Maybe somebody knew ahead of time? Yeah. And this goes back to Powell saying 0.25, but if you remove Ukraine and all your gut feelings and you look at purely what the data shows you, this is back to it has to be a 0.5 raise. Now, again, politics is involved. There's a lot of other things, but on
think
paper,
it's back on the table. With the war, the hedge is on the war. We know 0.25 is coming, and we've talked about this a lot. The difference between 0.25 and 0.5, it's nothing when we're at 0. It still is going to be incrementally higher than 0 one way or the other. Historically speaking, our rates are
it's still nothing.
It's nothing.
So and right now, seeing these numbers, we can look at any of the indices out there. You can see that there's an immediate spike. People saying this is great, buy it, and then got kind of blasted on the downside. So overall, technically, you would say, this is a yes. They're all at like minus 0.5, right before the data came out. They're all over, actually, I guess NQ is 0.96 down. But everything is kind of double what it was down before. And the reason why is, again, obviously the nuclear situation is bad. That's not necessarily what you want to hear. Again, energy is already an issue that's driving things in the market. But seeing these numbers, this is one of those scenarios. If this was any other time and we weren't at 40-year highs, you look at this and be like, this is awesome. This is great for the economy. More people are getting hired. The unemployment rate's coming down. Average earnings, nobody understands. This is great data. But we're back in the good is bad. And this is technically not good. And like I said, I swear Evans was one of the people yesterday that says, hey, we got to be careful, right? Labor. And now he's like, the labor market is in a very solid position. So
Yeah.
Report is good news, doesn't change picture painted. Okay, great. With inflationary pressures, we need to move towards a more neutral monetary policy. Again, that's, they're saying the things, but they're not giving any true data. Buller's the only one that's been pulling that trigger. So, again, very interesting day in the market. Now, is there going to be a lot of trading opportunity today? I would say, I think that this is going to be probably a risk on Friday. This data is great, but all this data supports a higher interest rate change. Um, Oil is up about 3% again. It's up $3.43. It's up at 111 today. Do you want to hold positions or do you want to mess with this going into the weekend? Probably not. So it's probably going to be a risk of more people trying to get out of the market, not into the market this weekend. And again, I expect it, again, we don't talk about, put call volume, but I'm assuming puts are going to be much, much higher going into the weekend.
And that's going to be the case whenever
Yeah.
you've got this much
Yeah.
uncertainty. And you're going into a weekend, it tends to be the rationale. I mean, a lot of the folks listening right now are probably thinking, what do I want to, how much do I want to be carrying? Do I want to thin some of my positions going into a weekend when I don't know what's going to happen in Europe? What's Putin going to do next? I mean, he seems to become increasingly more unstable. So
yeah, I mean,
I get it.
This data came out at 6:55 this morning. The Kremlin has basically said, "Hey, listen, we told the Ukrainians how we see this and what the solution to our problem is going to be." And again, they're waiting reaction back again. No, they said no doc has been agreed upon yet, but and now they're saying obviously the Kremlin's like, "Hey, now's when you should rally around Putin." So at least they're making the statement say, "Listen, we have put our grievances on the table. You've seen what we think the solution looks like, and now we're waiting to hear what the other side has to say from it." So that's not entirely a bad thing.
Well, it all depends on what they said is in there, and if their solution is,
I don't know.
Our solution is we take you over and you break to our will, then the Ukrainians are going to say, well, no.
In the 3 hours, though, I'm pretty sure Zelensky, or however you say his name, I'm pretty sure in the 3 hours, if that was what it said, I'm pretty sure he would have had a response in his green shirt. So I don't know that that's what it is. And also, guys, also understand yesterday afternoon, the European Union or the UN reporting agency also said that Iran also now has, believe that Iran has larger amounts of enriched uranium than they're supposed to have over there that could be used for weaponization. So that also came in. So, people are getting emboldened about this. And, again, in the name of defense, people do a lot of bad things. Iran also may have things. So I know one of the big deals with this was Russia was like, listen, again, we're going to demilitarize the Ukraine. You're not a NATO member, which if you don't ever become a NATO member, we'll leave. If they demilitarize them, that may include nuclear power plants. I don't know what their game plan is, but again, whenever you have a nuclear power plant or enriched uranium or any of those things in play, remember when they originally broke free, there was an agreement with the UK, the United States, and Russia that they needed to take all the nuclear weapons out of the Ukraine. Russia took them over and was supposed to destroy all of them. Who knows if that actually happened or not? But that was the agreement that was cut back then, was to get nuclear weapons out of other countries. So there are some players out there that are trying to denuclearize people, but again, so that's another one of the factors. So again, overall in the charts today, again, it's not looking great. We had that level. We talked about it yesterday. You can see that there was the pullback, and the first one kind of spiked through. And then late last night around 7 o'clock, you can see that we got that decent base and that drop back down again in the ES. It's kind of stabilizing right now, which it should. The retail trader's not in yet. We'll see what what that looks like. NQ kind of had the same thing. We drew this yesterday looking for a little bit of a pullback, and it did. It pulled back a little bit and continued to pressure down. The lows were, late last night, and now we've kind of just stabilized, and it's like, all right, what are we doing? What's up, guys?
Everything says trending sideways.
Yeah.
A little bit of calm.
Again, YM, same thing. YM slides through, kind of gives a fake out, pulled back up again. And again, this is what happens when you have, somebody like Powell speaking. Is it good? Is it bad? People keep analyzing. It's like, wait, what are we doing? Wait, are you going to raise? Are you not going to raise? Is it good? Is it bad? Is inflation? And again, kind of push down. And again, here's the Russell. You can see that the Russell just continued to drive down, and it kind of bounced off the 61, came back up again, went lower, kind of came back up again. So we do know we at least have some buyers in the Russell. So overall, with it chopping sideways right now, this is going to be a very difficult one to trade at the open. And the reason why is even on the 15-minute, we're at a level of stabilization. It's not really pulling in either direction right now. We've kind of already had a news spike. We can see that it came up and spiked right back up, like the NQ spiked back up to 14,000 and then dropped again. If anything, I'm looking at this and saying, hey, you know what? There's a lot of basing right there. There's quite a lot of basing. It's hit it and went even a little bit lower, and now it's driving it again. When you see things like this with a nice little burst ahead of time, you're saying, hey, you know what? There may be a short opportunity in here. I may want to take this. And again, 1 to 3 is right there. Wow, that's before this spike here. those are potential trade setups, as far as getting into the, the early morning hours. Remember, the big volatility today was based around non-farm. We know what that looks like. People are not making any more money. Inflation is expanding. And there's a ton of jobs going up. Those are all in the recipe for rising interest rates, which again are not great for the overall indices.
for the
So
for the equities.
that, and with the VIX being as high as it is, again, a lot of this, it should level out again. But a lot of times when we see what happens for the day, yeah, there's some of these days that things go down, but it tends to rally. This one dropped and then ended up higher. This one went down, and again, this is when things started to get a little bit better over here.
I was going to say before we bounce out here, because the one thing we were really talking about, because the equities are all kind of just they are in this no man's land, and we certainly have the risk off to consider going into the weekend.
It is risk off too, because even the cryptos are down.
Yeah, looking for those sharp edges. I was kind of curious. I mean, if we go back to, because we know the euro's getting absolutely smoked. I'd say the euro USD probably. How far back do we have to go? I mean, where might we see buyers? I mean, I don't even know my chart. How far? Okay, so where is that? When was that?
2020.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it's been a couple of years. Yeah, where did we see actually?
Yeah, I mean, right now, if you look at this, you can see, I'm up on a 4-hour chart right now. You can see there's a lot of basing and a nice punch right out of this area. It's kind of a big zone. Again, you may want to kind of shrink it a little bit, but to grab kind of the meat of it right now, 109 basically flat is kind of where this area comes in. 109 flat to 108.70 is an area on the 4-hour that, again, it spent some time down here, kind of peaked lower. 109, really any of the solid numbers right now, 110, 109, 108, 107 are always big for the euro. We're kind of floating there right now. And again, the next one down here is going to be, miraculously enough, the next base down here comes in right at 180, or I'm sorry, 108. So you can see it kind of jumps to these different levels. And again, it jumped right up to 109. I'm sorry, that's 109. 110 is right here. Right here. So you can see it tends to jump to those two different areas and then base around it, kind of that whole number. I would say with the euro, it's bouncing off of that level right now. It is a 4-hour level. Do you typically want to sell into a 4-hour area of buyers? Not really. But again, remember, the typical supply and demand theory is based off of large amounts of money moving in and out of the market at specific areas, accumulation and distribution phases. Right now where we are with Ukraine, is it risky that, now they've lost the largest power plant, they can literally shut power down to places, making it easier for them to roll through? Yeah, absolutely. NATO is, again, more solid than it's been in the last 20 years. They've thrown a lot more people. They said, don't cross into NATO. I mean, I would love to say that I can't imagine that he would be dumb enough to try to leave, knowing that if he does, the full brunt of the entire world militarily will come on him. But who knows? So for me right now, what I'm looking for,
are we on the cusp, truly on the cusp of World War III? Because I mean, is he that unstable? And I don't know.
That's the thing. It's like his big thing was, we need to stop NATO from coming here, which I guess there could be a slight argument made for that. Like, it makes sense. I understand you want a buffer. We have buffers, Cuban Missile Crisis. We did the same thing. I got it. But if you actually do decide to cross, knowing that you're going to take on NATO, which is basically taking on the rest of the world, that's an entirely different story. Then it's like, wow, this guy is completely unhinged, because he definitely does not stand any chance besides, pushing that red button. So
there was a news story last night. You might have missed it. I caught it, and this is where maybe this is how it ends. But there was a Russian oligarch who put a bounty. $1 million.
Oh, it's $1 million though. Yeah, I joked about it on my channel. It's $1 million.
$1 million bucks.
Russian. He's like his net worth is like $60 billion, and he's like, I'll put $1 million. It's like,
okay. At some point, do they actually put enough money out there where somebody?
Here's the thing.
Putin's going to have to leave is someone's. And that's, again, this is Russian history. That's generally how it's happening.
But flip it around.
But they have a revolution and they kill the crazy guy. And that's the only way they've ever had.
If you did that in the United States, but here's the thing: you got to think about it this way too. In the United States, say President Trump put $1 million kill bounty on President Biden. What would happen to President Trump?
Oh yeah,
he would be thrown in immediately for treason and threat. So that guy did that, knowing that he's probably
a target now.
Yeah, he's a target. if that happened in China, what would happen? The same thing. So I mean, they're saying it out there. It's one of those things. It's going to take some type of a military coup to remove him. It's the reality is, who knows what he's going to do? Nobody really knows. We can't trade, guesses and assumptions. The reality is, again, keeping this to a chart, euro dollar, it's down. It's in a 4-hour area. It's a very large psychological number. It hasn't happened in years. People are talking about it. If any type of peace comes out of it, again, we will see it. I mean, Europe is obviously at risk. The UK, because of their close proximity, they are absolutely at risk. All we're seeing in the charts is a risk-off environment. You're seeing these two drop because of nuclear power plants. You're seeing the cryptos, Bitcoin down 2.7. You're seeing Ethereum down 4%. You're seeing Dogecoin down 1.6. You're seeing bonds, which are considered the safe area. Bonds are rallying today, right? We're seeing the dollar skyrocket to safety. You're seeing the VIX up 10.5% right now. All we're seeing right now is risk off,
and flight
going
quality.
Back to, indices, again, these are all setting up for short opportunities. Could we get some great data later on today? Maybe. But the reality is we have no more news this morning today. There will be some headlines in there. But what potential, if you think about it, what potential headlines could send this market higher on the day? The only thing that we're going to see right now that would lower the amount of risk is the Ukrainians and the Russians basically saying that on paper we have an agreement for
we have an agreement. Yeah.
That's about it. That's about it. Because what's Powell going to say? Hey, you know what? Because of Ukraine, even though all these data is great, we're not going. We decided not to raise it. He's not going to say that today. It's a Friday.
No.
So the reality is, it's probably more risk off. Look for pullbacks. Remember, we don't want to get in after a large push. If there is a big rally up, again, you don't want to buy it after a large rally or sell it after a big drop. You always want to wait for the pullback. Ways that you guys can do this today, and regardless of what chart you're looking on, even if you don't fully understand it, you can use fibs, use the 23.6 retracement. If you see a large spike up in price, literally just pull it. You can say, oh, listen, it just spiked up here on a lower time frame. Okay, if it pulls back up to the 23.6, if it's going down, obviously, drop it down to the lower time frame, go to like a 5-minute or something like that. You see a big spike like this, you can also go like this and say, okay, look, magically it just happened to hit a 23.6. There would be an opportunity for you to get short if you wanted to. Don't buy it. Don't sell it down here. Sell it on the pullback, if that makes sense. So that's all I got for today.
That is great. All right. Yeah, we went a little long today, but we also had a little bit of fun. It was Friday, and it's been one crazy week, and I would anticipate that it's probably going to be just as crazy next week as well. With that, any questions?
Sunday night should also have a lot of gaps. If you don't know what I mean,
we're going to see
go
gaps
look at
on
last
Sunday.
Look at the gaps and how everything filled or partially filled last week. We're probably going to have a similar scenario this Sunday night. So check out the chart Sunday night for some nice opportunities.
100%. 100%. Any questions for Nadex, please email us, customerservice@nadex.com. You want to reach out to Brian, support at keeptradingsimple.com. My email address is still todd.rich@ig.com for the time being. That is going to switch to Nadex. I'm getting the todd.rich@nadex.com.
Crypto.com. Oh, you're going to go Nadex?
I think we're going to stick with Nadex, even though crypto owns us. I don't know. They're still sorting through some of that stuff, but I definitely have to get off of the IG one because I'm not at IG anymore. I mean, I'm Nadex, and we're owned by Crypto.com. So clearly, this is one of those little issues that has to still get solved. I'm not going to do a recap. I mean, I think ultimately the one takeaway is, normally we'd say, hey, feel good Friday. We'd like to see some positive things in the markets. But with all of the global uncertainty, we're in a risk-off environment, where, especially going into a weekend, a lot of people don't want to be carrying things just because there is so much uncertainty. So and
it's risk-off in the cryptos, which a week was a push towards risk. So.
Yeah, so I think Brian's right on that. Now, that being said, who knows? Who knows how people interpret the how they interpret the unemployment and the NFP numbers, and we'll see what headlines come out of Europe. With that, everyone, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Brian and I will be back on Monday. Remember, if you're watching these and you like them, whether you're on Facebook or whether you're on YouTube, give us a like. Brian, we do appreciate that. Hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and we will catch you again on Monday. Thanks for joining, everyone. Good luck in the markets.